Something about me as a kid, I just wanted to see myself in what I was doing. My first idea of art was my father, and he drew this wild cow. And I was like just totally fascinated by what he did. And then I started drawing, and his friends were around, and they taught me how to shade, like using toilet paper in your thumb. And then I would just watch the graffiti of the day, which was usually women. And I was learning to draw from what I saw. And then from that, I transitioned to comic books and started drawing, like Superman. But when I would draw Superman, I would draw in black. And I would draw Batman, and especially Captain Marvel, which the original Captain Marvel. I liked him. And I would draw him, but I'd always make him black. Because something about me as a kid, I just wanted to see myself in what I was doing. So a lot of my work was around that. When I went to school, I became like the school artist. When I got in the Marine Corps, I was always doing signs and painting signs, although I was a grunt. I was a infantryman. But wherever I was doing like the signs and stuff like that. And then when I came back from Vietnam, they couldn't find anything for me to do. And so they sent me to the art department. And that was really the beginning of me being an artist as an idea. And so I started drawing from Marine Corps manuals. And in the manuals, I would actually draw black people. And in training aids, I would always add black people because nobody was doing that. So my work was they used to say it was ethnic. And it had to be because I taught myself to draw. And so I was always drawing myself. And so I actually had to learn how to draw white people. And, it wasn't like this difficult task, but I had to become conscious of the facial features. Because I would draw white people, but they would look like light-skinned black people. It's like a lot of people would draw black people looking like light-skinned white people. But I actually learned how to structure the nose and the mouth and the face and the body, especially of women, because you drew a lot of women in training aids. And I had to learn how to make the hips narrower and the legs thinner. Because, as African American, we kind of like the more voluptuous shape. And especially when it's idealizing in art. So I learned that. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, because, we fell out and I started reading history, I started learning about the world. I always liked the Black Panther Party. Even in Vietnam, I understood who they were and I was paying attention to what they were doing. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I immediately went right to the Black Panther Party. I took my portfolio in, and they said, hey, go down to the Ministry of Information. Maybe you can help us with some flyers. And I never left until I actually left. From that day on, I just stayed and never went back home. Because the work we was doing took us overnight. And then as soon as we finished that, we was doing something else. And I next to house, I went and got my clothes, and that was it. But the thing about the Black Panther Party, now I'm really learning about history. I'm getting a context for history. I'm kind of getting what this means and the role. And see, because coming out of the Marine Corps, I'm ready to come to the party because I'm coming to the party because they had guns and they were fighting. See, that's what my mind is. And they're like, well, no, bro, we got to educate people. You can't just go out there and start fighting. The community has to be on your side. People have to be ready for this. So we have to start educating people. In other words, educate to liberate. You have to start teaching, and you have to learn a lot. It's like, what are you going to do when you win? What does it mean? And can you win against an armed military? And how are we going to do that? And so all of a sudden, things got in context. So I wasn't this guy ready to go out there and start. So I learned that there was more to it. We had the breakfast program. We had to feed people. And back in those days, people really were hungry. There's hunger in America. But there are people who, have food problems. But back then, it was really real. And most people didn't have 3 or 4 or 5 pair of sneakers. They had 1 pair of shoes, period. And so today it's kind of hard to really see that because most of the people you see, even the homeless people have extra shoes. You know what I'm saying? So back in those days, people really had little. And it was really, so that's why we had these programs. So all of a sudden now we're talking about survival pending revolution. So it became more about the survival of our people, more about that. And so our art, the art of the Black Panther Party, if you notice one thing about the Black Panther, these large headlines and big pictures. Because the people saw the picture and the headline, they got the message. You know, it's kind of like what people did in the churches with the stained glass. That was to teach the people what the Bible was about. So when they look at that, they got the story of what Christianity was trying to tell them. So we basically, in that context, if you look at the Black Panther Party newspaper, a lot of pictures, a lot of art, because we're trying to, you know, pump into people, you know, about revolution, what's happening, you know, what the police is doing to them, what the courts are doing to them, what capitalism is doing to them. So even if they only read the headlines, by the time they got to the back, they got a message. And if they couldn't read, they got the message from just looking at the pictures and what people were doing. It was serious because people was coming for the paper, and usually they went to the front, to the back, and then they would start going through the paper looking for stuff. In terms of a teaching tool, it was probably our best. And there were other papers coming up. There were other organizations creating their own paper, like the Young Lords had Palante, which was their paper. And then other groups had papers. And we even did an issue one time for the Los Siete, the 7 Latinx people who were arrested. We took our paper and cut it in half. So the back, if you open it from the back, you turn it upside down, open it from the back, you got this whole story for Los Siete. And so the paper was powerful too. It helped Melvin Van Peebles' movie, Sweet Sweetback Badass Song. Because then people read the paper and they went to see the movie, and there were like lines around people. And Van Peebles went and he was like, whoa, what's going on? Because the party's platform was that powerful. Sickle cell anemia, a sister named Mary Williams discovered that there was a disease that affected Black people and people from the Mediterranean because of malaria. And our cells were sickled to protect us from malaria. But here it started to have an adverse effect to our bodies. And she found out about that. So then we started this whole sickle cell anemia program. And the sickle cell anemia program is so powerful that it got to Nixon. And Nixon, rather than give us that win, gave money to Howard University to start doing sickle cell anemia research. It also, because of our community centers, our chapter centers around the country, Nixon started funding community centers all over the country to try to counter what we were doing. So there's a lot of stuff came out of that. A lot of the bands and local groups got the equipment from Nixon. Law Enforcement Assistance Act. But Nixon was paying attention to what we're doing. And of course, you had COINTEL there at the same time, spreading poison, spreading these ideas among us, you know, like turning Huey and Eldridge against each other. So we had that going on too. So it was just a lot of different things happening at the time. And then in the middle of that, our art was telling the story. And even, you know, we kind of had some things to say to Eldridge. It wasn't very flattering. So, but the paper was our voice. It was how we got. And as an artist, I grew because I got to see world art, world revolutionary art, what was going on in China. And the Palestinians, at that time, they were more of a peace movement, and they just put out these beautiful posters. I mean, it was just great. And so we would look at their art and we look at the stuff that was coming out of South America. And it all came to us because they would send us their stuff. So we had like stacks of art from all over the world. And that inspired me as an artist. And also Emory's work. Because Emory was our teacher. He was the master. And we were his students. And so Emory's work, so that's why we had most of my early art, which we don't have here, had those bold lines. You know, because of it. But then as I started to come into my own, that sort of changed. And Asali, when she came, she had a different style. And that's kind of like the picture of the old lady back there was actually inspired by the way she drew. Because I said, well, you know, we don't have to always draw with these thick lines. Let's use other tones. Let's try. And so she kind of brought that, because we were kind of like just, you know, basically copying Emory. But when she came, she brought something different. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so then I started I even did some stuff with my stipple, which I had never done at the Black Panther Party. So it pushed me to be a better artist. And then when I left the party, I still had a lot of that in me. But now I was in the world and I was around other artists. I was in Washington, D.C. with Howard University, American University, Corcoran School of Art, and then the Smithsonian, those fantastic galleries and stuff. So now it's opened up. I'm opened up. And now it's coming into my own. And so my style changed. Surrealism is in my heart, but I don't think it always comes out of my art. So I started doing different work. And then I got into Buddhism, more for the meditation and the mindfulness and the calming effect that it had on me. I don't say I was a Buddhist in the sense of believing I was going to be reincarnated, because I'm one of those people who, when you're dead, you're done. That's it. I know that's hard for people, but I'm okay with this one life. And hey, if something happens, I'll be a little shocked if I find myself standing in the line and so I say, what's going on, bro? I say, it's Judgment Day. I might be a little upset. I might say, okay. I'll be a little shocked. I don't know how, my response might be a little shaky. I try to stay connected with what's happening. And I think if you go through my art, it's connected. Like, there's a piece over here of these people holding this TV, and on the screen it says "buy." Well, I did that before I knew there was you could have a hand TV, because I saw television as just selling stuff. So I've always tried to stay connected, like the one about the nuclear freeze, about endangerment, and then trying to combining the ducks with the human body, because all of humanity is endangered by nuclear weapons. And even with the Zen Buddhist thing, it's more about using that to calm ourselves down. Just operating from anger, you're going to make bad decisions. So the whole Zen Panther idea was calming that, being thoughtful in how you move and how you do. I'm hoping, and I keep seeing glimpses of young people paying attention and realizing they have to do something. Because when we started, we were naive. We believed that if we could just teach people what was right, they would do better. If we just showed them what capitalism was doing to them, what the rich were doing to them, they would just wake up and be a revolution, or they would at least stop these people and move against them. Well, that was us being naive. We didn't realize that most people was waiting for their chance to be a capitalist, waiting for their chance to be rich. And especially a lot of white people believe that, I'm just not doing it right because I should be like Trump or Elon Musk. I just did something wrong. And they thinking that there's a club that they're going to be able to join. There is a club, but then most people are not in it and never going to get in it. And so understanding that people are corrupt and that there's something changed in, I say, the last 30 years in this culture, where you saw people being more progressive and trying to get better, and it's almost like they're going backwards. So maybe them going backwards may push some other people, the younger people, to say, wait a minute, we're not going back to the 50s and 60s. We're not doing that. And so now it's time to start dealing with these folks, start fighting and coming forward again. And I'm hoping that they can only be pushed so far, that and even the white people who, like those poor people who are never going to get anything out of this, who are actually going to suffer more. And when they start cutting all like the DEI thing, that they don't realize that's why their kids are safe crossing the street. Why there's all these things to help them. That's for their safety. That's all locked up into that. They think it's just about giving black people and Mexicans jobs, but it's really the things that protect them and make the society safe. And so maybe their young people and our young people will find common ground and move forward. But that's me having hope that the human spirit is much more resilient than what you see in media. And then seeing crazy people like Elon Musk is like, y'all can't see this guy's a little loony, really? For real? Y'all can't see that? You really can't see that this guy, and then like all the people thought Trump was trying to make America great again. That's what they were going for. I don't know what America great again means. I still am trying to figure out what does that mean? And then they didn't realize they're going to take stuff from them. Well, that was just a slogan. And Trump was always telling you what he was going to do, but they just figure it's not going to happen to us. But now hopefully they'll see that it's happening. Isn't that basically they all been tricked? See, they call Nixon Tricky Dick. He has nothing on Trump. But Nixon at least had the good sense to resign. Nixon said, okay, I messed up. I'm not going to take the country through this. I'm going to resign. This guy, not only was he convicted, the man is a criminal. He's literally what we call a criminal. The President of the United States. What kind of country is this? See, I was never prepared for them getting this sick. I really had more hope for America than this. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what's happening here. Who are these people and what are they doing? Now more people are talking to us than ever. People find out what we did and who we are. They're always talking to us. I talk to a lot of people. When they find out my experience, they come up and they crowd around and they want to know, well, what can we do? We were young, and the older people didn't always agree with what we were doing, but we did it anyway. And I'm saying, even if we get upset, do it, because it's your world. That's all right that we're uncomfortable with what you're doing. We're supposed to be, because you're doing something new and different, and go forward. But the young people really, it's their world. I mean, I'm 79, I'd be happy if I had like 20 more years. I'd be real happy. I would love to make it to 100 just to see how the world has changed. I never expected them to get this bad. Because you was always hoping that people were better than they are. And that was sort of like the hope that people really were good human beings. But now we have to question that. This is the first time I can really say I question, are people really good? And the good outweigh the bad. I mean, that's a real question for me now. But hope makes me say, okay, because a lot of young people I meet are great people. I mean, black, white, all of them, Latinx, Asian kids. They're good people, but maybe that's the people that gravitate toward me. But then I see pictures and protests of the other group, and they got the same young people. They're young 19, 20-year-olds are following them. And so our young 19, 20-year-olds are following us. So it's like, those guys really have to, because it's their world. And the damage we're doing, it's probably going to take a while to even fix it, if it's fixable. Because the damage we're doing to the environment, the damage we're doing to our health. We're the only country that legally sells poison to its people. Most countries would not serve this to their people. So the stuff this is a crazy country. We have all this wonderful stuff, but there's this crazy stuff underlying it. It's like, so it's kind of, for the first time, I'm questioning the future. I want to have hope because I keep seeing signs of it. But, and that's the thing about media, you got to look past it and actually go to people, because if you look at media only, you're going to get that sense of hopelessness. So I'm hoping that that hope is alive, like Jesse Jackson said, keep hope alive. But I'm hoping that young people are going to wake up, or people are going to wake up and see what's really going on, and understand that we can have a better country. I'd rather be a good country that takes care of its people than this great country, whatever that means. A place where people are happy and and that the government actually spends our money, because there's no such thing as government money, it's our money. And I think people got to get over the fact that it's the government's money. It's not the government's money, it's our money. And as soon as we realize all this is really ours and that we're letting people mishandle it, I think we stand some kind of chance. But, and I don't know what that means. I don't know how that's going to look, because for young people, they pretty much have to figure it out. Because we're old and we're setting our ways, and there's things we think should happen, but it's their world. And if it's going to be hope, it's in the future in these young people, because they're way more educated than we were. I mean, there's stuff kids know at 14 and 15 I had no idea existed. So they're smarter than we were. And so we're hoping that that's going to turn into something that's hope, and that they're going to make the kind of changes in the world that's going to be better for them and their future.